Welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. My name is Rob Murgatroyd, and I'm a former doctor turned lifestyle entrepreneur. Each week, I interview some of the best minds on the planet on the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. Come take this journey with me. Excuses are over. It's time to live.
What happened for me being raised in that and being, the different ideas that have come from religion and spirituality is just massive perspective.
There's those rocket ship full throttle moments where you have to go full throttle and you feel like your vehicle is about to completely break down, but then you break through the atmosphere and there's this floating.
Your whole purpose is to follow that feeling and that belief and that vision that actually gives you the highest feeling of energy that you have or that you've ever felt. So your whole life's mission is follow that energy. And that is my belief. And it always has been and it always will be.
What's up, everybody? This is Rob Murgatroyd, and welcome to another episode of the Work Hard, Play Hard show. Today's guest is Lori Harder. I first met Lori probably 10 years ago at a fitness competition, and she blew me away, not because she won the show, but because there's a light inside of her that explodes a room. It's one of those things that you just can't put your finger on, but when you see it, you know it, and she's got it. There were a million questions I could have asked her about fitness. She's been on the cover of every fitness magazine that you can think of. But what I really wanted to know about her is how she's dominating the world of human potential and self-love. So in this conversation, we talk about everything from how she overcame panic attacks to the challenges with having all your dreams come true at the same time in a very be careful what you wish for, candid conversation. And she also shared with me one of the most painful events of her life that she's never shared publicly. You're going to want to hear this to truly understand who she is and how it shaped her life and frankly, how she rose above it. This was a very wide-ranging conversation. We covered a lot of grounds. You can find Lori on the socials at Lori Harder. Make sure to take a screenshot of this episode and share it with your friends. So without further ado, please enjoy this conversation I had with Lori Harder. Lori, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be on your show, Rob.
No more excited than I am. I've been looking forward to this for some time, and I'm so glad that you found a hole in your schedule and we were able to make this happen.
Finally, I know. And I'm really thrilled because I know that this is going to be such a huge podcast. So I'm getting on early while I can still get into your schedule.
Okay. So I'd like to begin by rewinding the clock a bit. And I want to talk about some areas of your life that have likely informed where you are today. So let's begin at the beginning by being raised in a super religious home. Can you sort of describe what it was like as a kid to not celebrate holidays or birthdays, or to have to leave the classroom during the Pledge of Allegiance, or to, knock on your classmates' doors, asking them if they wanted to hear about the Bible when they were having a slumber party? Sort of paint that picture for me.
Those are all, you took me right back. So thanks for that. The thing about being raised in a religion like that is that you don't know any different, but it doesn't make it any less challenging. I just remember feeling so lonely all the time and making friends with people at school, like real friendships, real connections, and then never being able to do anything with them outside of the classroom. It was just this constant bullying around our religion or our weight. And it just got worse as the separation started even more later on in 4th, 5th grade.
What would you say are the key lessons that you learned from that whole experience?
Oh, man, there's a lot. I would say resilience. And I learned so much about how much we can handle, especially as children, and also just being able to have fun on my own. This is the craziest part to me when I look back, Rob. Like, as a little kid, I sort of knew that that was a temporary thing. Like I was like, okay, this might be this right now, but I know what I am later. So that's just all on hold. And this is just here and now. Isn't that crazy?
So it was almost like a foreshadowing of the future.
Yes. It was like, okay, here I am. I might be going through this, but just wait. Is like as a little kid, I remember saying in my mind all the time, just wait. It's going to be big. Just wait. You'll be sorry. Like I remember saying that when I would get bullied. I was like, just wait. Just wait. I'm going to show you who I am.
Do you still feel like you still have a piece of that in you now?
I do. And actually, it's something that I have to work with because I find I'm always trying to prove myself and get validation. And even though it's a huge part of obviously me fulfilling what my soul's calling is, I always have to make sure that my intention is balanced because sometimes I can be that person who's doing certain things because sometimes I'm like, attention, love, see me, feeling fulfilled. So I have to always kind of like go in and say, okay, let's love ourselves to this goal. Let's make sure that this goal is for us and for the right intentions and for all of those other things besides, validation, love me, see me, am I enough yet?
So what did being raised in that environment teach you about religion or God or the universe or spirituality? And how do you think differently about that now?
Oh, Rob, that's such a good question. I always sit in this question because when you are raised in something from when you are a baby, basically, it's like it's almost in your DNA sometimes. So breaking that belief and that idea, because there was a time I was so convicted to this idea of this religion. And while I'm grateful for all of the things that I learned, at the same time, it's like, as I started getting older, I realized that I was in fear all of the time. And I would meet other people, especially my husband. When I met my husband, I remember thinking he just believed that he was loved by his source, by God, no matter what he did. And I remember saying to him, I'm like, no, that's not the case. Like, you have to do this, this, and this. You should be feeling this way. You should be in fear over this. You should, you have to be doing all of this work and you need to be saving all of these people. Otherwise, you're not going to be approved and gain the love. And he was just like, no, you're just loved no matter what. And I could not wrap my brain around the idea that other people felt this way. What happened for me being raised in that and being, the different ideas that have come from religion and spirituality is just massive perspective. It completely opened my eyes after I got out of it that there are so many different beliefs. And at the end of the day, it made me dig really deep into what feels right for me. What actually is a real connection for me? When is this voice or this thing or whatever this higher power or energy is, when do I feel most in alignment with this? And that's what I had, that has been my guiding source. And that's what I've had to follow, because before it was so fear-based that I couldn't even actually understand what my connection was, what it was to, when it was speaking to me. So there was a lot of, like murky water around religion and my faith and what I really believed, and getting out of that really helped open my eyes and look at what are we all really following? What are we all really feeling? What do we all really desire? And that had me dig deep into that.
Do you feel that if you didn't have this experience, that you could be as effective as you are with your messaging now?
No, that hands down was I even believe that I most likely chose that path so that I could understand everybody that I work with right now, because, and to be able to give the message that I give, because to be on the extreme other side gives me complete perspective to know what people are dealing with and how to get through.
So you grew up in Upper Michigan, and I just learned that there is an Upper Michigan. And the typical diet wasn't so great, right? And as a result of that, the women in your family sort of struggled with weight. Can you tell us what that struggle was like and what you ultimately wound up doing to swing the pendulum and go in the opposite direction?
The family dynamic was loving through food, connecting through food. And I know so many people can relate to that, right? We celebrate around food, we cry, and we give ourselves food to feel better. It's like every single emotion is wrapped around food. And that was definitely the case for us. And so growing up in that, I think the belief started probably not even from my grandma, but prior to my grandmother, long before that, because it was this belief that we had bad genetics and it didn't matter anyway. It wouldn't matter no matter what we did. If we ate right, if we exercised, you weren't going to change. And what ended up happening for me was, number one, the bullying and the teasing in school just got to be so bad that it's like I couldn't handle that pain anymore. Like it was just constant teasing around your weight. I remember crying myself to sleep at night, thinking tomorrow's going to be the day that I finally have enough willpower to not eat. How do you break what your only like interaction and love feels like? How do you break that? And you have no tribe on the outside of what you know. So for me, it started to turn into this, like, as a teenager, the pain just got really intense because now I started to believe that I would always be in pain. So I started to withdraw and I started to work out. I started to go outside of the house more. I didn't realize what I was doing was constantly trying to get out of the environment that was making me feel that way. So I would always leave the house. I'd try to go move my body. I would try to eat well, but I would notice that the trap at night I would just go right back. So it was really tough for me to be able to break that habit until I moved out of the house.
All right, we're going to circle back to that area in a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about mom's anxiety attacks. Can you sort of place us maybe on a particular day that you remember her having these panic attacks and what it was like?
So my mom ended up having a surprise pregnancy when I was 14. What ended up happening is later on I learned, and we had no idea what was going on. And she had always had anxiety and she was always nervous. And it really ran in my family around just, being in, maybe center of attention in public. Or I remember whenever we would go to church, like we'd have to raise our hand on Tuesday if we wanted to answer. And she'd be so nervous. So I started watching this habit. And then I realized that I was starting to get nervous as well. And around the time that she had my brother, what happened is we didn't realize she had postpartum depression looking back, and it wasn't talked about back then, and it wasn't a thing yet. So I was in a grocery store one time and we had been, shopping, regular grocery shopping, and we were at the checkout line. And I remember she started just having this like meltdown. I did not know what was going on. This big of a attack was like completely out of character. And I was like, what is happening? And she threw her keys up on the conveyor belt. And a part of me was like, yes, I get to drive home. And the other part of me was like, what is happening to my mom? So it's that moment when you're a kid, when you think your parents are like invincible or taking care of you, and then going, whoa, what is going on? And things are not right now. And I have that in me. And it was a moment of going, that is in me. I'm like this. And they just accelerated. They started happening because I went to middle school, but they were happening in middle school. And this is when I was really like, look, I can't go to high school because there's something wrong with me.
Got it. So what strategies did you use then, or are you using now if it ever, rears its ugly head on you?
Then I hid. I ran from everything. I stopped doing everything. I stopped being around people much. I was working out a bit, so that was helping. But honestly, it was like, I said no to everything. I hid from everything. So hiding was my first strategy. What happened was later on, I went to some tools that were not awesome. In my 20s, I had started to want to apply for some other jobs, but I didn't feel like I was good enough for any of them because I was homeschooled and I had these panic attacks. So as I was like, I can't stay in these dead end jobs. That's really when I started to confront them for the first time. So what happened is I wanted to apply for this job interview. And it was way outside of my skill set. And I was like, I'm going to have a panic attack in this interview, because that was a huge trigger for me, was like people asking me questions, people putting me on the spot, having to show up as this person I didn't believe I was. So I went to the doctor and I was like, hey, do you have anything for panic attacks? Like, can I talk to a therapist? So this is what I asked. Can I talk to a therapist? And they're like, we don't do that. Like, there's actually these pills that you can take for it. Like, you can do some antidepressant, anti-anxiety pills. And at the time I was like, all right, give it to me. Like, let's fix me. So I started on these pills. And what happened is, this is right around the time when I was just married to Chris. And there are, we're just going here, Rob, but there are side effects to these pills where you like have no sexual feeling whatsoever. So I go back to the doctor. I'm like, this isn't really working for me. Like, this is affecting my marriage. I feel nothing for my husband. Like, no, I'm not attracted. I have no desire. Like, this is not working for us. And they're like, okay, we're going to put you on another one. So I go on another one and it's still not working. I'm feeling even more numb. And I'm like, okay, this might be working a little bit for this interview, which I ended up going on and did not get the job. And I still felt panic, but not to the extreme, but I still felt panic. So I'm on 2 of these different medications, and I'm just noticing that I'm being totally out of character. And I didn't notice it right away, but Chris noticed it. So the way that I started to notice is, Rob, I'm eating like these huge bowls of pasta at night. And I used to love to eat salads and be healthy and go work out after work. And I'd tell Chris, I'm like, no, you go work out. I don't care. I want more pasta. Like, I just sit and eat these bowls of pasta every single night. And all of a sudden, while I'm eating this bowl of pasta, this commercial comes on, and it's like a really sad commercial. And I'm like, I should be feeling something. And I asked myself this question. And I literally asked myself, would I cry if someone told me that one of my family members died? And I said no. Like, I couldn't cry. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on with the wiring in my brain? And I started to panic. Like, did I wreck my brain? And so I went off of these medications the next day, cold turkey, while I was at work, and I was severe. So I didn't know that this happened. Like, I wasn't about to go back to the doctor. I didn't want to ask. I was just going off cold turkey.
So when you turned 18, you made a decision to move to Madison, Wisconsin, where your friend Bree was going to college. Can you describe what that period in your life was like? Sort of driving your Geo Metro to 3 different waitressing jobs that you hated, from TGI Fridays to Hooters. Yes, Hooters, ladies and gentlemen. Can you kind of describe what that was like?
By the way, if my mom and dad listen to this and they're about to read the book, they still don't know I worked at Hooters. So we'll just block them from this post. Just kidding. They're about to read the book.
That is going to be my pull quote.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah. So, I have this vision of, little Lori, 18 years old in a Geo Metro worth about $500, going from TGI Fridays with the weird suspenders and the buttons and, going to Hooters and, like 3 jobs and what was that period of your life like?
Oh God. Wow. Like, you brought me right back to the uniforms, because I just remember like dressing up from one clown outfit to the next. Like, what am I doing? But I got right away pretty heavily involved in drinking, like 4 or 5, sometimes 6 nights a week. So for me, I kind of went all in on that alternate side of life, because it was this taste of freedom. So the waitressing was just kind of keeping me afloat, and I was meeting people. I had never actually been able to hang out with people outside my religion. So I was like meeting all of these interesting people. I was going to these parties. It was absolutely, it was an amazing time of life and the worst experience of my life, because I actually remember being waitressing at Hooters once, and I was leaning up against this post because I was so tired. I was like half sleeping, and I was like, I can't go on. Like, I'm so exhausted. How do I keep doing this? And then in the evening, it's like I'd get home and I'd start drinking and I'd go out. And that was just the cycle. It was just like always tired, always depressed, drinking. Finally, so the reason that I started drinking so much is I felt this massive freedom when I would do it. It was like I could be me. Like I could just not care. I could let go. I could be me. But then there was this massive crash on the other side. And also when I drank, there was no anxiety. It was like the only time that I felt like this feeling of just complete freedom. So it was this cycle of chasing this freedom and chasing this love and attention from, men and women when I was out, that it was just this over and over cycle that I could not get myself out of.
So it's kind of like you were switching between depressed and drinking and hungover and just rinse and repeat over and over again. Over
and over and over.
All right. So things then took a significant turn in your life when you and Bree decided to take a trip to Cancun. If you're open to it and you're willing to share, would you tell us about the night that you were separated from her in the nightclub and found that some guys took her home? And then you jumped in a cab to go see where she was and see if she was okay.
So, and Rob, this is the first time I've talked about it on a podcast. So we're going to go there together.
Okay.
And there was actually another girl with us too. And these were my roommates that I had moved out with. And she drank all of the time, just like me, except she would often pass out when she would drink. So she ended up getting taken home, and I had gone to the bathroom during this time when they had, and if you're in a club in Cancun, if you have to go to the bathroom, it's going to be a good hour-long thing, to get through the crowd and to wait in line. So I got back and she was gone, and I was like, what is going on? So I started to panic, thinking of all of these things that could be happening because I don't know who she went home with. And I jump in a cab and we are driving and driving and driving. And I'm not even thinking at this point that it's taking a while. And we are driving some more. And all of a sudden I realize there's no more lights. There's no more city lights at all. And this is when all of a sudden I just drop into panic and I'm like, what are we doing? Where are we going? And he's like, I'm taking a shortcut. And I'm thinking, this has been a really long time to take a shortcut. And so we drive a little bit longer and I'm like, this is not right. Right away, this is not right. And he pulls over and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And he pulls into this dirt road, deep into the jungle. And it's all of a sudden we're just completely enveloped in the jungle. These plants are next to the car. And I just know at this point, I'm like, this is not good. Obviously I just know something terrible is about to happen. And he goes out to use the bathroom and comes in on my passenger side. And he's just starts to beat me up and strangle me. And he's asking for money. And I don't have any money besides what I was going to pay him with because I knew not to bring a lot of money. I have nothing. And it completely angers him. And he's just literally we wrestled back and forth for hours to the point of where he was, strangling me and shaking me to come back and strangling me and shaking me to come back too. And honestly, the reason the reason I can talk about it now is and I still haven't actually verbally gone there with many people is it's I've had so many years to process this, but at the same time, it's so surreal to me to think that what was actually happening that evening, because something else happened that evening is I had this moment, just this crazy, clarifying moment. And I looked around his car and he had a lot of different religious signs in his car. As far as he had Mary hanging from his mirror. He had some other just religious stickers and things like that. And I was I just had this moment and it felt like the heavens parted and I knew I was supposed to talk about my little brother. Because at the time he was probably 3 or 4. And I knew I was supposed to talk about God forgiving him. And it was all of a sudden, I just started saying these words that were just hey, you don't have to worry about this. You're completely forgiven. This is totally fine. God wants me to tell you that he knew that you needed to do this for, you needed money, and that you're going to be forgiven if you take me back, and that this doesn't even matter. And moving forward in your life, you'll be completely forgiven if you just bring me back. Like, this is the moment for you that you get to decide. But the more that you can humanize yourself, and the more that you can try to relate to that person, the more likely they are to get out of whatever kind of haze they're in to bring them like to planet Earth. And he ended up dropping me off. He had me put my head down in his lap and held the knife to my neck the whole time, but he ended up dropping me off. And I walked into the hotel and my teeth were chipped. My face was swollen. I had blood all over my dress. I looked crazy. I can only imagine. I walk up to the front desk and I was just like asking for the American embassy. I didn't even know what to say or ask for. I was just like still in freak out mode. So the next day I ended up going around all day long with cops in this bug, like a bug, like the car, a bug with Elvis music playing, with two male cops who were in like Hawaiian shirts, going around and looking in all of these individual cabs to see what cab it was, because we had completely destroyed it. But the thing is that the cops told me this happens all the time and that I was super lucky. When I went back home and I was trying to process this, because let me tell you, I can't even tell you all of the thoughts. There's a lot of fear. I had fear around men. I had fear around the culture. I had fear around just being out in public. I had fear around like just my safety in general. And I talked to one of my roommates and I was like, I need to like sit down and talk about this. And she said to me, I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. And if you don't talk about it, it'll go away. And that's just how we dealt with everything. And it made me like have this moment of, I'm making her feel bad, and I never want to be a burden. That was a huge issue for me, was never wanting to be a burden on my family, on anyone in my life. So I never shared my problems. So it was this moment of, I brought this on myself. I was wearing a small dress. I'm ashamed of myself. I was drinking. I knew I shouldn't have gotten in the cab. My parents have no idea that I party or that I drink ever, and that I was wearing this skanky dress. And so it was this moment of like, I brought this on myself. I'm shoving this down. I'm hiding it, and it'll go away. And it did not go away until years later, years and years and years. But that was the story.
First of all, thank you for trusting me with that. I know that wasn't easy, and it means a lot that you trusted me there. What were the steps that you took to work through that trauma?
The steps weren't even, it was more drinking later. But I do remember in the moment being in that car, I was like, God, if you let me off on this one, like if I can get out of this one, I will do something amazing with my life.
Sounds like you did.
It just took me a few years, Rob.
Okay. All right. So let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about where you are now. A lot of your dreams are coming true, and the universe, being the universe, has a sense of humor, and all of your dreams are coming true at the exact same time. So to give people some context of what I'm referring to, you just spoke at Grant Cardone's 10X in front of 10,000 people. You're about to begin your book tour for your first book, A Tribe Called Bliss. You just had your biggest Bliss event with over 500 people. I could go on and on and on talking about the new projects that you're working on, or the speaking gigs that you're doing, or your insane travel schedule. But what I want to ask you about are the lessons that you learned from this be careful what you wish for stage of life. So my first question is the life you're living now the life that you envisioned it would be when you were manifesting all of that stuff that I just mentioned?
Parts of it are, and parts of it are not. So there are those beautiful moments of, living in your purpose. That is really, really beautiful. And so one of the biggest things that I've learned is living in your purpose does not always feel good. It can. I feel like it needs more space and time. So does it look like what I thought? No, but I was also really open to the idea that it could feel like this at times. Since the rest of my life building all of these different things has looked like this too. There's those rocket ship full throttle moments where you have to go full throttle and you feel like your vehicle is about to completely break down, but then you break through the atmosphere and there's this floating. And so I've always kind of gone by that. Like right now I'm in full throttle, everything's shaking. I feel like the rocket's about to fall apart, but I'm right at the edge. I'm like going through the atmosphere right now. But it also has taught me that if I don't make more space for the downtime, I'm not going to be able to, number one, run at this pace or enjoy it. And I did not manifest these dreams to not enjoy them. So that's what I'm working on right now.
How would you do it differently? If you can look back, and I know it's difficult because there's too many variables, but would you space projects out differently, or would you block out time for downtime, or would you put in travel that's non-business related, or how would you do it differently?
I am unbelievably blown away by myself right now. Like, I never thought I'd be able to do this. And still also like find pockets of, it taught me how to find pockets of time and space to connect and have downtime. And it also just made me so clear on the tools that I'm teaching work. Like they are the only things that pulled me through. And it also was this massive leveling up of like, you never stop being afraid. You never stop growing. You never stop having those really questionable moments of, can I do this? Am I enough? Is this possible? And my faith has never been so high as it is right now because of those moments. So with that said, I wouldn't do it differently looking back. But number two, moving forward, you better believe like I am planning everything in my life so that I get some downtime because I recharge away from people and I am my best when I get some time to go and be in nature and connect with my source, like in a much bigger way and play. Play is like what I've created some of my best work off of. So I know that it's just as important. So that's a neglected part the last year, sort of. But I even kind of worked that in because I do know how important that part is.
Yeah. Having goals come true sometimes looks a bit different when you actually get them. You shared on your podcast that you sort of had a little meltdown before you walked on stage in front of your biggest audience yet at Grant Cardone's 10X. Can you kind of place us back on that day and tell us a story of what you were going through and how you got yourself out of it and maybe what you learned?
Oh man. Okay. I love this story because there was a point during this that I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. You know how you're always like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like there was a moment where it was like, no, I legitimately might not make it to that stage. Like I was like, okay, I know how good the brain works there was Rob, this is like super secret that I've never said. Like there was a point where I was like, I could send myself to the hospital right now and I could get out of it. Like I could allow myself to go back to panic, Lori, have a nervous breakdown, make it look totally real, go to the hospital and be out of this. And then I was like, do you really want to do that? And my brain was like, nope, not at all. So we're gonna just deal with it.
Ow, I tripped.
Okay, true story. Okay. So, I think the thing that got me, because I've spoken at different events. I've spoken at, our network marketing company where we speak in front of sometimes 10, 15,000 people. But I've always been out there with Chris, or it's always been an audience where I know people are there for, like, they're excited to hear what you have to say. Like, they're not going to be like, who's this person? What are they talking about? And that's kind of the message that I was going into Grants with, because it was it was a very masculine stage. And, I love how there's so much diversity in selling and teaching. And he happens to be almost completely opposite of me. And I love that. So the thing is, though, is he also attracts those people. So for me, I was thinking, number one, I think there were only 3 women speakers all weekend. No, four total out of I think there was 25 or 30 or something like that. also, I was definitely bringing in a very spiritual message about being aligned with your message and aligned with your soul and aligned with your higher power. And I was also going to put them through like a meditation visualization at the end. So
I can only, I'm seeing this whole thing before me right now, and I'm feeling exactly what you're feeling.
I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do? Like, I am doing something like, all these things are going through my head. Like, you should have switched your message. Like, what were you thinking? And then I was like, but I don't, I tried switching my message for another talk that I did, and I didn't feel great about it. I was like, that wasn't me. Like, I changed who I was for another stage, and it was not right. So my gut had already told me, like, you're not doing that again. So I knew I had to do it at this one. Like, it was just so clear to me. You have to be fully you in order for people to even connect with you. Like, it doesn't matter what you say up there. You can't go and pretend to be someone else. Right before, the night before, I was in meltdown mode and, and just doing all of the different things that I could possibly do. I was in prayer for like hours. I was in meditation, and I was like, I'm still not feeling better, God. So like, when are you going to come in here and help me out? Like, I was literally saying things like, what are you doing? Like, where are you? And I start leaving the door with Chris, and I'm walking out in the hallway, and I just start to get dizzy. I'm like, this is not good. Like, I am thinking I'm not going to be able to do this. And I'm walking through the casino, right? Because it's in Las Vegas. I get in the room and I start to feel better again. It's like I started to get grounded. I started to feel my feet. I'm starting to use some more of these tools again. I'm starting to take some deep breaths, and the nerves started to go lower and lower. And I sat there, and I just really, because you could sit in these chairs right beforehand, and I listened to the speaker prior, and I was just really praying and meditating and being like, well, everything that I've done has led me to this moment. So I'm having faith in that. I'm also having faith that whatever the hell happens up there is meant to happen. I had to just have full on faith. I had to just say, if you've led me to this spot, I'm just handing it over. And anything other than that was not working. So honestly, I got on that stage, and the second I got up there, it was like I just dropped in, like just complete and utter calm. To lean so much on faith and to just be so fully me up there was why it worked.
I want to read an excerpt from a post that you wrote a while back that hit me, and just a small little excerpt of it. No, I didn't just get lucky. I was not born into this designed life. Running on the beach in the winter was a planned manifestation that was years in the making. We knew we wanted to design a life with access to the things that fed our souls and our goals. So, with years of planning, working, and designing, we took the scary leap and we built businesses out of our passion. Can you add a little color there on what you were hoping people would understand when you wrote that?
I think it's so important for people to see what it really looks like and how much intention has to go into your happiness and into creating a life. Like it has to be a daily planning. It has to be, and anyone can do it. That's also, I think with every post that I make, I'm trying to somehow take an angle of, I am not special. This is where I'm from. This is what was going on. This is what I was up against. Like, you guys can absolutely do this with planning and intention. So every time I say it, it's kind of like, you can have this, but here's where you have to start.
Let's talk about belief a little bit, which is on the fringes of what you were just talking about. You are probably the world's most successful manifester in the history of human womankind.
Oh, I love that title.
What are some beliefs that you have that most people don't? And how did you train yourself to believe them? I
believe that if I can think something for myself, that it was meant for me, that it's literally in my purpose, and it is my obligation to go towards it if I can see myself in it. Like, that is the feeling of truth in your body. And it's the idea of what you are feeling and seeing in those moments of goosebumps and wow. And those moments that give you enthusiasm and give you life and energy and vitality, that is actually you seeing your future you and your soul aligning with it. And anything outside of that doesn't give you life is not your truth. It's not your purpose. Your whole purpose is to follow that feeling and that belief and that vision that actually gives you the highest feeling of energy that you have or that you've ever felt. So your whole life's mission is follow that energy. And that is my belief. And it always has been and it always will be.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that. That was amazing. All right. Let's talk about Earn Your Happy. Earn Your Happy largely centers around self-love. Where are you weak with your own self-love?
My weakest is probably thinking that I constantly need to be achieving in order to be valid, in order to be loved.
Amazing. All right, so let's move on to the, got a couple of play hard questions for you and a couple of rapid fire, and we'll wrap up. So the play hard section of the show, play hard basically means different things to different people, but I view play hard as pretty much any area outside of work. So I'm going to turn a question on you that your husband dreamed up when we were in the car this weekend. And that was, if you had a magic wand, describe in detail what play hard would look like to you.
Oh, I know exactly what it looks like because I'm planning it right now. So, so it is waking up in the morning, doing whatever I want, but typically I'm going to go move my body anyway. And I love to surf and be in the ocean. So I would be surfing. I would be probably going out on, so this is, let's just say this is over like a week or a month or something like that. Surfing on a boat. I love champagne. I love good food. I love incredible conversations. I love dancing. I love dancing. I love to ballroom dance. I love to try new things. I love art. I would love to do some pottery. I would love to learn to play the guitar better and take that with me and sing on the beach with people. And it's all absolutely happening, and most of it in July. But yeah, that's playing. New experiences. I literally want to have new cultural experiences that I've never had, along with like just being in the ocean, surfing, boating, being outside, beautiful sunsets, just enjoying life, enjoying people, and enjoying conversation.
Love that. That's why we're a match made in heaven, because I want to give you new experiences when we travel. So this is, our love languages are matching. This is great.
I love that. That's why I'm like, when can we go with Rob and Kim again?
I love that. I did not know that you surfed.
Oh, I love it. I'm not very good at it, but I love it. I'll do it all. Like Chris and I, when we go to Costa Rica, we go and surf. So did we just do that? Yeah, we just did it.
Well, that was my next question. When was the last time you played hard, like really played hard and forgot about work?
That was definitely in Costa Rica in November. And we've built that trip in every year. I've gone every year for the last 3 years. I mean, I wouldn't say it's work there, but there's some self-development stuff there just because you're sitting in meditation, doing some journaling and things like that. For 5 days straight, you're like surfing and you're doing horseback riding. And if you want to zip line, you can zip line. We're out on the beach. We literally in Costa Rica. So some of my friends live there. It's like every single night, no matter what you're doing, if you live there, like you're meeting for sunset to watch the sunset on the beach with everyone, and the whole town comes out, and you just like drink kombucha and you watch the sunset with all of these dogs and kids running around. And it's the most glorious thing. And it just makes you stop and slow down and remember.
My next question was, when was the last time you cried tears of joy?
Tears of joy. I think it was really recent. I think I cried tears of joy after the 10X conference. I was so proud of myself. Like I couldn't, I could cry again. Like right after I was like little Lori, I could just see myself as a little girl. Like she just did that. Like, that's amazing.
How beautiful is that?
I take time to be like proud of myself now. And I didn't used to do that.
I love that. What's on your vision board these days? You still keep one?
You know what? This was like the first year I didn't make one. I probably will actually make one this year. But right now it's like what's inspiring me is travel, because like you said, Rob, like it's all happening right now. So for me, traveling, speaking, being able to just kind of show up different places and speak to groups of people about what lights me up and in hopes that it lights them up is huge. So travel, play, and I'm always really inspired by spaces. So even though I freaking love my house, I'm always very inspired to keep other sorts of spaces and homes on my house because space inspires me. So I would say play, luxury spaces, and travel.
What's the one thing that you've implemented into your lifestyle that has helped you look better, feel better, or be healthier? Any of those three? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think, when I do this, I'm just better?
When I do this, I'm just better. When I take time in the morning to meditate and visualize and slow down, because I still have that tendency to get anxious. So that's a huge one for me. And when I make sure I have space and time to like do these little extras for myself, I feel better about myself. So such as like skin treatments or massage or going and having time to go get the green juice that I want or planning my day out for food, things like that, like making some time to make sure that I do the things that take care of me.
What's the one thing that you've always wanted to learn, but you just have not gotten around to yet?
Guitar.
I thought you were going to say that. All right. Couple questions from social media. Mary wants to know, when can I buy your book?
Mary, my book comes out on May 8th. So you can pre-order it right now though. So if you want to get it on the exact day, you would have to pre-order it now.
And Jack wants to know, what is it like living with Chris Harder?
Okay, Jack. What's it like living with Chris Harder? Let me tell you, it's always exciting. And something that people I don't think know about him, because even though he's so amazing on social media, he is so funny and fun and goofy and lighthearted. And he is the most loving human being I've ever met in my life. Like the most loving, soft-hearted human I have ever met in my life. It's this beautiful dance of being that way and also being able to, like, I admire him so much, like having such fierce boundaries and this ability to just really go after what he wants and not let things get in the way. It's like this fierceness of like just saying what he wants, and it doesn't matter to him like what obstacles come up, while still being loving and letting go of, I don't know. It's crazy. The two things going on at once.
Yeah, he's got that dichotomy going for sure. Marianne wants to know, what time do you go to bed and how do you fit it all in?
9 or 9:30, Marianne. Always. Like, I'm going to just be like last night. It was like 9 o'clock. And I'm like, I got to just go to bed. Because right now, especially running at the rate that we're running at, sleep is my number one. When I don't sleep, I feel so weak. Like I feel mentally weak. I feel challenged. I feel disgruntled. I forget my why. So sleep and eating right is really important. So 9:30.
All right, one more from social. I have a million, so I have to pick them. But Janie wants to know, what is your most ordered meal in a restaurant, whether it's for lunch or dinner? You pick it, whichever one you want. If you're going out for lunch or dinner, what's your go-to?
It's always the same. So if there is kale on the menu, it is on my plate. So anything kale. Like I love salmon, I love kale, I also love cheese on my kale. Like just a kale salad.
Okay, rapid fire question. Feel free to answer these as quickly or as slowly as you would like. What would your friends say your superpower is?
To be funny, to make them laugh.
What's the one thing that you're afraid of right now?
Rob, I don't feel totally afraid. Just disappointing my family when my book comes out.
What did you believe to be true that you found out that you were wrong about?
That I am capable of so much more than I thought. Like even in how much downtime I need. I thought that I needed a whole lot more downtime. I thought that I needed a whole lot more time and space to connect to inspiration and to create. And that is simply not the case.
What do people never ask you, but you wish they did?
Like what's fun for me? Like what actually drives me? Like what what actually is some of the biggest pieces of things that inspire me and to do that help me get in the zone to do my work.
What's the one thing that you own and probably should throw out, but you're not going to throw it out?
Oh, I feel like if I say it out loud, it's bad too. I tried to go to the earth-saving laundry soap, except it doesn't get my clothes as clean. So I'm having trouble parting with my Tide.
Last question. If you had to give a TED Talk on nothing that you're known for or nothing that you speak about, and it could be on anything that you like or anything that you have a passion for or anything else for that matter, what would it be on?
I think it'd be like the power of surfing, ballroom dancing, and trying to learn guitar.
I'm going to leave it on that note. Lori, I know that we went way over our time. This was awesome. I hope it was great for you. I need a cigarette now. This was great. Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any final words, suggestions, or an ask for the people that are listening?
No, just listen to this podcast because I promise you, he's putting his whole heart and soul into being able to shift your life through epic stories. So you got more stories out of me than I've told in years. So thank you so much. I'm super grateful, Rob.
You got it. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode and you know someone that needs some help in either stepping up their work hard game or their play hard game, it would mean the world to me if you shared this podcast with them to help me get this movement out there. So if you like what you heard, head on over to iTunes, take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, and I will be forever grateful. So until the next episode, excuses are over. It's time to live.